Hello and welcome to Clamp, the Creating, Living, and Making podcast. I'm your host, Morley Kurt, and joining me as always is Grant Alexander.
Hello.
And Adam Mackey.
G'day, mate.
Adam, what is in your clamps this week, my man?
Well, I've been getting all our business stuff sorted for like the CNC and all that sort of stuff. So in Australia, you have to register for a business number. So we've done all that, which is quite daunting to actually make everything official. And then this week we're going to be registering the business name, which would be cool. We've actually decided to, because my wife and I are going to do this together. Grant, you missed out last week when I talked about it, but I kind of threw myself under the bus because I started making the business as my own and not as a couple like we first decided. But yeah, so we're going to be the Mackie Co. rather than Make a Mackie. And yeah, so pretty exciting to actually start getting everything official, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And other than that, I have been making a chess piece for this Make a Chess set, which is pretty cool. So I got a spark plug and a couple of nuts, and I've glued it all together so the nuts sort of make a stand for the spark plug, and then that's my whole piece. And I'm painting it. Yeah.
Nice.
It's not marble. It's not CNC'd, but it's
I know.
fun.
My plan was to CNC it, so I designed the whole thing in Fusion with plans to CNC it, like the exact same thing, but make it out of wood, so I can engrave it and all that sort of stuff. But the CNC didn't really like trying to reach all the crevices. So
Yeah, that would have been a better 3D printed thing.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Very
But yeah,
cool.
other than that, that's it.
Nice. Well, this week I've continued work on the fountain. It's ended up to be a relatively long build, especially with my work schedule. So most of last week was just coating it in layers of finish. But I did seal up the inside with silicone this weekend. So it's technically ready to water test. I think I've been subconsciously putting it off because I'm nervous if it leaks. Shouldn't be a big deal, but it's kind of ready to just install at this point. It's pretty much ready to go. But since it has been a bit of a longer term project, I still found myself wanting to like put out videos and, you know, be a bit more prolific than one video in 4 weeks. So I continued down the train of making Fusion 360 tutorials. And, you know, it's very useful when you make kind of how-to videos and people tend to tell you what they want in your next one. So someone was like, oh, I would have liked this great video, but I really would appreciate it if you went into more detail about like the measuring and using user parameters in Fusion. I was like, perfect. I will make a video on exactly that, which is what I did. And the context for it was fixing these kind of janky magnetic brackets I adapted for a towel rack in our kitchen. I made ones that are a bit stronger. So that was a fun little weekend project, and I'm enjoying putting out like these kind of easier weekly videos, like in between this bigger project. Gives me a bit of a feeling of progress, and I enjoy making the style of content.
Well, I gotta say two things. One, I really liked the video, but two, I really wanted that like towel rack thing because I've got one that's magnetic, but the magnets on it aren't strong enough, so every time I take a towel off, it falls off and falls to the ground.
And is yours attached to your oven? So
mine was attached to my garage door.
Okay, but it's still like sheet metal.
It's like a door, like, you know, a fire door. So like a super thick. But yeah, still sheet metal. Yeah. Yeah.
So something I found with this is that those magnets are super strong. Like anytime they actually come packaged with plastic washers between them, so you can actually get them apart. And anytime they snap together without them, it's like so hard to get them apart. But because the oven is made,
blood blisters from snapping them together by accident.
I've been there. But because the oven is such thin sheet metal, there's not a lot for the magnet to actually attach to. So like even with those really strong magnets, like this solution is definitely better, but it's still like you can't like press down in it. Like it will slide. It's very little friction and very little purchase for the magnet to grab onto.
So I can't remember where. I think it was 1 Minute Workbench, but he added like I think it was silicone on something on the magnet to make it so that it couldn't slide. So it's actually not
That's a
that
good idea.
it's not that it's that magnets don't have good, like the force on sliding is nothing.
Right.
Right? They can come apart super easy
Bad
sliding.
shear strength.
Right. Shear strength. There you go, engineer. The shear strength on magnets is garbage. So that's the problem. But if you add something onto the magnet, like even like, I don't know, double-sided tape or something with a little bit of grip to it, it'll work so much better because it won't slide anymore.
That's really interesting. I'll definitely try that. I think I'm going to do that right after we finish recording.
Cool.
Yeah, so super excited to test out the fountain. Still don't know where I'm going to put it, but that's a problem for future Morley. Yeah, that's pretty much been my week. Grant, what have you been up to?
Well, for me, it's been 2 weeks because I don't know if some of you guys noticed, but I wasn't here last week. And I haven't had an opportunity to listen to the show yet because it's just been a very busy day and we're recording on the day the show released.
Not like you drove for 4 hours today or anything.
Yeah, but I drove in a brand new car, but we'll get to that. Which I didn't have my phone and I didn't have it all synced up. One day I'll be able to, but I wanted to get home. Anyways, I worked on my chess piece in the last 2 weeks and sent it out, and it's already been received by Emmett from Dead Rise Woodcrafts, and I am excited to see that my chess piece will be with a bunch of other chess pieces, making my chess piece look like garbage. So that's really great. I can't wait to see someone else who at the last minute just sends him a chunk of dowel or something, and then mine can finally be not the worst one. But it was really fun, actually. It just like I wanted to hand carve something, but while I was what I was doing last week was camping, but just right before I went camping, I had like 30 minutes, and I just went out in the garage and I found a piece of yellow heart and a copper pipe and a piece of walnut, and I screwed them all together and made something that sort of looked like a pawn. I'm going to be posting pictures on my Instagram, and there's some on Emmett's Instagram. Anyways, that was fun. It was like a 30-minute project, and I was happy with it at the end. The Mystery Maker collab finally arrived in Arkansas. And I sent it to the Creative Ward Gallery, Marion, over there. And it's a leather bag made of leather, wood, license plates, and a seatbelt buckle. So it's got like this car theme to it, which is I thought really fun. I wanted to make a purse, but when I showed it to my wife, she said it's not a purse. It's too big, even though her purse is bigger than it. But that's a whole nother thing. But I was really excited about it. I actually might make another one to be more like a little tool bag, but I'll have to get Steph from Uncommon Outpost to send me another, because she was part of the Mystery Maker collab. She sent me a seatbelt buckle. So I need her to send me another seatbelt buckle because I couldn't just go to the junkyard and get that myself. Anyways. I was camping last week, and the fun part about going camping is seeing, I went with it was my dad's birthday, and we went camping, and I tested out the camper, and everything worked great, and I'm super happy with all the work that I put into it, and it's pretty much complete. There's a few things on the list, it's only ever 90% complete, but in it, when I was driving there, my old station wagon, it's a 22-year-old car, was having a little bit of a trouble, and the wheel bearings on it need to be replaced, and we're having another kid, so another kid on the way. I was looking at how much room we have in it. once we pack everything into it with just the one kid, once we have a second kid, what are we ever going to do? So I was looking for a new car, and today I drove for 4 hours 2 hours there and 2 hours back, pretty much, to buy a minivan. So everyone can laugh at me, but
No, minivans are sick.
yeah, it's a
Minivan's
2000, yeah, it's a 2014 Chrysler Town and Country Limited with
Nice.
every single option. It's got navigation. It's got 3D. It's got 2 DVD screens. It's got 4 Bluetooth headphones for wireless headphones, so that I don't have to listen to whatever garbage is happening back there. It's got whatever, like Finding Nemo or Minions or whatever. It's got leather, heated seats, heated steering wheel, all the like power lift gate, power doors. All the windows are auto up and auto down. So most cars like have an auto down, but BMWs have had auto up forever. So I'm used to auto up. But when I push the auto up button, yes, auto up is like the best thing ever, because it's like you just press the button, it goes up, and you don't have to worry about it.
So with the current state of the used car market, would that cost you like $50,000?
Pretty much, yeah. I got it for $8,500 certified, but it's got over 200,000 kilometers on it.
Okay, a little worse.
It's got a lot of kilometers, but I went and looked at it. Like, it's got 0 rust, which is rust is the thing that kills cars. Kilometers don't kill cars. Yeah. But it got me thinking.
It's not too bad.
You know,
for a 7-year-old car, I mean that's the same age as our Subaru, which only had 70,000 when we got it, but we paid 5 times the price.
Yeah, so. It's okay. I don't think I got an amazing deal. I don't think I overpaid.
Yeah,
I wish I'd paid less. I've never bought a car that I thought, I think I paid too little or too much or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it got me thinking about cars and function or form. And obviously a minivan is all function. Right? Like this one's got nice leather seats, but they're not they're not nice looking leather seats. They're leather seats, they're heated, whatever.
Heated seats are the best thing since sliced bread.
I agree. That's why it was on my list
good.
There was things that I could not compromise on, and leather heated seats was one of them.
So good. I've never heard of a heated steering wheel though. That's interesting.
I've driven a car once with one, and then it was like -40 when I drove it, and it was amazing.
Have you ever been in a car with air conditioned seats?
I have not. I've heard like some people love it. Other people feel like violated by it.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. It's kind of like a bidet. It's like, ooh, this is interesting.
Yeah. But what I like about why I was looking, I was looking for a truck, or I was looking for a minivan or an SUV. I was originally just looking for a truck or an SUV, but then I just ended up with a minivan because they do what a truck can do. Like, I can fold down the seats. It goes flat, and I can put 4x8 sheets of plywood in it and close the gate. Like, you can't even do that with a truck. Trucks beds.
I was going to say, in saying that you can't do that with a truck if you get a dual cab, because if you get a two-seater truck, then yeah, you could easily fit a 4x8 sheet, but not a 5-seater. I'm curious to know why you've gone straight for a minivan for one extra kid. Normally people that get a minivan have like 5 kids.
So I went the minivan because the dog.
Okay.
So when you get right now the dog sits in the the passenger side back seat.
Yeah.
But when you have 2 car seats, he's not going to have any room there. So then the only other place is the trunk. But if you go camping, your trunk's full. So where are you going to put the dog?
Fair enough.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, and I suppose you needed something that can tow the bowler and everything as well.
Yeah, but just about everything can. Like, I right now drive a 3 Series BMW, so it tows the bowler. It's
So is the minivan extra, or is that your wife's car now? You got rid of hers.
So her car was the station wagon. So what is probably gonna happen is that my convertible is gonna hit the market, and if I
Okay.
sell it for the right price, then I'll sell it. If I don't, I'm not gonna. I don't want to sell it. I don't need to sell it. But it's just like a lot
Yeah.
of car jockeying. If I ever want to use the convertible again, I'll end up having to, move a car. I just hate moving cars around. I just know I'm too lazy to move a car out of the way to use my car.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
But and then I'll keep the station wagon because the station. What's wrong with the convertible is that I can't even put like the way the seatbelts are and the way it's designed because it's so old. It doesn't have the anchor points for putting in a child
Car
seat.
seat and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like I can't use it for my kid for like 10 years. So it just seems like a silly car to keep as the second car. And I don't use it in the winter.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it's kind of funny. Like, first of all, 100% support the minivan decision. Like, minivans are sick. They whip, like you said. They have a lot of cargo space. They're usually like really overpowered engine wise.
Have you said before you wanted one?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like in some ways, like, or maybe in all ways, that minivan is like more luxurious than your convertible. Like when it comes to actually like functional amenities, right? Like I remember I was on a flight when I went to Thailand with Eden. I was on a flight to China, and there's all the Chinese car commercials that would play before the movies. And there was a minivan commercial. It was for like, I don't know, some Toyota minivan, whatever their minivan is. And it was painting this like picture of like luxury, like driving into the city at night, like sitting in the back seat with a chauffeur at the front. And I was thinking like, yeah, like being in the back seat of a minivan is extremely comfortable.
Yeah. There's cup holders and like anything you want. There's a DVD screen and
Yeah. It's like being in an apartment.
it's completely, it's 100% function.
Yeah.
In luxury, sure. It's like being in the back. It's being in the back of a limousine. I've been in limousines with less cup holders than Dodge Grand Caravans or Chrysler Town and Countries. Like there's like 700 cup holders in that thing. It's insane.
Why though?
Why are there so many cup holders?
There should be like one per seat.
But there's two per seat.
But why? Who has two drinks?
Water, coffee.
Yeah. Beer,
It's just coffee,
whiskey.
coffee.
So I feel like in modern society, at least in like North America, we spend so much time on the cars and on the road that you can't help but get incredibly caught up in the exterior look of cars because you spend so much of your life sitting in traffic looking at other cars. So what else are you going to do except think like, oh, that's a beautiful car. Oh, that's an ugly car. And it's probably part of the reason that everyone, like many people can be like, identify cars very easily. But it's funny like how little it matters. Like I fully appreciate the beauty of cars, and I have cars that I love the look of and I have cars that I hate the look of. But like, you know, I've said it before, if it came down to like Carlos the Hyundai accent is dying, like the aesthetics of the car that I'm buying next is probably going to be at like the bottom of the list when it comes to considerations. That being said, I still have strong opinions about what I do and don't like in cars. Like you can't help but have these opinions. It's so ingrained into our culture.
So true. Yeah, like when I think about, like I love the way my convertible looks with the top down. I'm not super happy about it with the top up. I'm like that with most soft top convertibles.
I've gotten angry in traffic because of I was behind one of the new Land Rovers. And I was like, this looks like a toy car. Like, why would you buy this car? It looks ridiculous. And then eventually, like, I had this come to Jesus moment of like, you know, like it actually looks kind of fun. I can see why someone would buy that. Like, I understand.
But in saying that, the whole point of a Land Cruiser is complete function. They look like they do because they're made for off-road use, made for going out in the bush. That they're not made to look cool, in a sense. They're there just to form a function. That's why if you actually go look at like a brand new Land Cruiser, the inside of them, the dash looks like it's from 1970 because they're not there trying to give you all the features. They're there trying to get you out in the bush.
not a Land Cruiser. He said Land Rover.
I meant Land
Oh,
Rover.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. But the older Land Rover, the Land Rover Discoveries are that way. The Land Rover Range Rovers are not the same.
Well, and then the newer Land Rovers, which have diverged from the Range Rovers, like have become a whole new car unto themselves, just have a different look.
But so when I think about what you're talking about, I think it's really funny because you made a really good point. Is that we spend so much time looking at other people's cars,
Yeah.
and then we buy a car based on what we see. But you should be thinking, in my mind, and this is the thing I don't like about the new car I got, is the steering wheel. You spend so much time touching the steering wheel, right? And the BMW has a beautiful steering wheel, and I just like the way it feels. I like it. It's leather. It's like hand stitched. And this new one has some leather hand stitched parts or stitched leather parts, but it's got a giant plastic top part to it. And I just go, and that's the part you're holding on to. And I get why they do it because it's way more durable than leather, right? Like it's gonna outlast the rest of the car, right? But I just touching it, I just go, it feels like garbage. I just don't want to touch the steering wheel. And I go, with everything else in the car being so luxurious, the steering wheel is so important. You have so much feel there, and nobody thinks about it in my mind.
Sounds like you have a leather project coming up.
I've thought about this, and I was thinking about it while I was driving, and I just went like, I don't know if I want it thicker. That's the problem, right? Because if you wrap it, it ends up being thicker, and then
But you could just add like a leather feature over the plastic.
right then it's thicker.
Slightly.
True.
You know what is
Yeah.
one of the best examples of form in function coming head to head in cars is those wooden beads that you drape over the seats in cars. Because I am,
Taxi driver seat.
and it makes so
Yeah.
much sense, because if you're like me and your air conditioning doesn't work very well and you're prone to sweating if you get too warm, just slightly, then I'm driving with a sweaty back in the summer. So if I have a little bit of extra ventilation, that is great, but it looks so stupid, but it's so functional.
Interesting. I've never once sat in one of them, ever.
Me neither.
But every time I look at it, I go, that doesn't look comfortable. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is. I mean, it's got to be. Like these people who sit in their car all day long have them on their seats.
Yeah,
so it's
those are
got
the
to be
people to listen
comfortable.
to. Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. Okay, I got to say, leather or cloth? Do you guys have a preference?
Leather.
Do you mean real leather or like pleather?
Real leather.
I don't know if I've actually been in a car with real leather seats before. If I did, I don't know if I knew it was that.
I guarantee you have. There are so few cars that have pleather because
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
like most of them don't because people have realized real Corinthian leather was pleather,
Right.
and then there was a bunch of backlash over it.
So I don't have a strong opinion between the two. Like the new synthetic cloths in a lot of cars, I think is kind of nice. What I hate is those 1995 to 2005 cars where they would have like the carpet material on the seats. And that's just, I feel like is always filthy. I hate that stuff.
Did you like the 1980s velour seats?
I don't
The
know if I've
70s and
experienced
80s?
that.
Oh,
Is that
no.
like shag carpet?
No, that's like the carpet that, like the seats that if you like push them, if you went your hand over it one way, you could see your hand, and then you go the other way. That's what velour, and it was like super soft.
Like
and they had
fuzz.
it was fuzz, and they always had like in your couch you have those little buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, definitely don't like that. I associate that with being car sick as a small child.
interesting.
Yeah.
I associate that with lowriders.
Also interesting. I won't buy another car with cloth interior probably ever again. For the main reason being I spill shit on it all the time. And leather cleans up.
Yeah. It's
You need those
Cloth
Tesla seats.
is done.
like, that stain is there forever now.
Yeah. What was that about Tesla?
I said you need those Tesla seats.
Wow.
What about the Tesla seats?
Apparently, they're like stain proof. No matter what you spill on it, it'll just wipe off.
Yeah, I've
The
had
white
stain-proof
seat.
furniture before, and my roommate at the time sat on them after going out. It was raining. He came home, just fucking soaking wet, right? And sat on it and had a conversation with someone until he was dry, and then left a stain. And I said, "Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you change into dry clothes?" And he said to me, "Why? It's not my fault that you bought crappy seats." And I went, "These were very expensive." Anyways, it
So
was a very big argument. I didn't
you
like
guys
that
know that
roommate.
the psychological phenomenon, I think it's the recency effect. It's like you notice one white Jeep and then you're like, oh, there's white Jeeps everywhere.
Oh my god, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So my most recent, like it happens to everyone. I feel like it happens a lot with cars. And
Yes.
my most recent, I need to look up the exact model. Yeah, there it is. So my most recent experience with that is with Hyundai Konas, which I think is a relatively new model of car. But their back ends I just find look so hilarious because they have this like secondary set of taillights below the main ones, and it looks like two cars squished on top of each other. And every time I see it, I just like giggle a little bit because it looks so funny. And I can't name any other cars that have that sort of like dual taillight feature.
Yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, I totally see what you're saying.
And that is
funny.
one of my favorite things to look at in cars is the arrangement of the taillights and how the design integrates into the rest of the car. Like once you start looking at it, you notice that the designers put so much thought into that. Like you see it on the
Or
F-150.
not.
Right. It's a good signifier of like how much thought was put into the car.
That looks so weird.
You look at like the F-150 and it has the kind of like F-shaped taillights, which that same shape is mirrored in the front windows where it like dips down a little bit, as well as the side mirrors. And you're like, oh, this is a very cohesive design. You can see it in like Mercedes where there's a very like nice curve to it. And one of the coolest ones I saw recently was a new Mini Cooper. And it must have been like a special sport edition because the taillights were in the shape of the Union Jack, like the British flag, in a very subtle way. So just like when it lit up, it was the stripes of the Union Jack, and it looked so cool.
They have been like that for a very long time.
Oh, that was the first time I've noticed it.
Yeah, that's one of their things. I noticed that quite a long time ago. I thought it was pretty cool, and it's funny how a lot of companies are starting to do that. Is instead of changing the design, the shape of the actual unit, is they're integrating how it lights up.
Yes. And that is something that's form and function, I think.
Yeah.
And it's only with new technology that that's even possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And so... oh, go ahead.
So I was going to say, have you guys seen the new Hummer, the electric one?
No.
Not in person, but I've seen pictures.
Yeah, the lighting on that is so cool. So when you plug it in to charge, you know how you see like a Mercedes, how when they put on their blinker, it like goes across rather than just flashing the whole thing. So their front headlights light up and move across like a battery bar and like fill up as it charges, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like as you walk up to it, the grill lights up and stuff. It's cool.
That is cool, and that's exactly where I was going to go with my question. So great. Great minds think alike. I was going to go, what are some of the other things that you've seen? Technology has changed something that has form and function now.
The frunk.
Right? Like this, that was a great example. You got the license plate, or the front headlights are a charge bar, as well as being the headlights, clearly. What's a frunk?
Front trunk, baby. It's in all the electric cars. You don't need the front of the car to have room for the engine, so it's just more cargo space.
Right,
and that's one of
frunks. My first car was mid-engine.
They have a frunk and a back trunk.
Yes.
So I
just want to point out that Morley thinks a frunk is a new thing for electric cars, but a frunk has been around ever since it was rear-wheel drive.
It's the front trunk in addition to the back trunk. It's just so much cargo space.
Go look at a Pontiac Fiero. It has a front trunk and a rear trunk.
Okay, but the difference with electric cars is that they don't need all the extra space for an internal combustion engine. And that's where I was going with this, in that I think electric cars are a great example of like challenging the traditional, well, obviously like challenging the traditional layout of internal combustion engine cars because they just don't need to fit into that box in many ways. Like I was thinking about this, like when you see like a Tesla stopped at a stoplight, like they don't really need to stay running when they're at a stoplight because the main power consumption is only happening when they're applying power to the wheels. So the whole notion of like idling in a car doesn't really even exist in electric cars. Or I don't even, I was thinking about this, like, do you get an oil change with an electric car? Like I know some electric motors take oil, but I assume the whole oil change regimen is like entirely different with an electric car.
I'm curious what maintenance would be on a Tesla.
Yeah.
I would assume like battery acid and stuff. I don't know, but if you want to look into like form and function of a car, like seriously look into this new Hummer. Like, so it has a frunk, but the frunk is specifically made to hold the panels that you take off the roof when you want to make it a convertible.
Oh.
So you have the frunk that you can use at any time, but it also has a space to store parts of the car that you take off, which is like really cool that they've thought of that. The entire car is completely like they've thought of everything to work in a certain way, which I think is really cool.
So I was looking at this electric overlanding truck that the spot between the rear cab and the like box pulled out the side and had a modular like camping stove or water or whatever you wanted. It was all modular, so you could order different things, and they were showing off the I can't remember the name of the company, and I'm sure one of our listeners could chime in and let us know if Adam ever makes an Instagram post about this video. But so it's I just thought that was cool that they were using other spots. It's kind of like on a lot of the new trucks, they have these like everywhere that used to be wasted space between the trunk or between the bed and the fender is now a toolbox, right? Or a storage compartment. And I just think that's such a great idea. And have you seen the tailgates that are steps?
Yeah. All the new tailgates are like multi-tools.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I just think that's like, I can't believe it took this long for someone to integrate something more than I fold down.
Well, in saying that as well, also I think the new Hummer might have it, but I know some trucks that you can either fold the back down or swing it out.
Oh, that's such an old thing. That is like
but you don't ever see it. That was an old thing that never got moved on. It's on like a tip bed or something, but not on like a Ford Ranger or whatever.
Right. It used to be on every single station wagon. It's one of the things I used to love about old station wagons is that they had that dual purpose. We got to get Maddox Studio on here one day and chat with him about cars because I think we could have a really good conversation with him because I think he likes station wagons and I like station wagons. Therefore, we'd have a good conversation. But it's one of those things that I just go like, I think that for a little while in the 70s, they started designing cars to be functional and form. And then the gas crunch happened and cars became stripped of any kind of extras for fuel economy purposes. That's my thoughts, because it feels like the 80s, they just kind of went like, let's strip everything we can to try and make it as lightweight as possible. And I think we're finally getting to a point with new, alternative fuels. I've talked about it before. I don't think electric is the future. I think electric is the DVD of, in comparison. It's the Laserdisc and DVD of our world. And we're going to have something much better soon. And everyone's going to kick themselves for buying electric vehicles, but we'll see what happens.
Grant, what's your opinion on sedans?
So what do you define sedans before I answer?
Okay. Let me think. So a 5-door car, including the trunk, or I guess it could be a coupe, that has a separate trunk compartment, which is inaccessible from the seating compartment. So it has a long front end, a bump for the seating compartment, and then it goes down where the trunk is.
Right. So you don't call the trunk part a door. It's only a door if it's a hatchback.
Okay,
So it's a
four-door
four-door.
sedan.
Four-door sedan. Sedans are typically four doors. There are two-door sedans, but generally speaking, it's a four-door car. I like four-door cars. The fact that in newer cars, you can reach in, like, you can fold down the seats so that the trunk compartment is accessible. I like them. I like them better than coupes. I like wagons the best personally, but I feel like four doors are better than two. Like, the more doors you can put on a car, the better. That's my thoughts.
Right.
What do
I
you
guess
think?
where I'm going with this, I see no reason to buy a sedan over a hatchback. It's just like, I think there's this connotation that sedans are more luxurious in some way, which I don't quite understand.
I agree.
Why? Because you can hide a body in the trunk?
No, I don't understand it either. I literally, like, so a colleague of mine was looking at buying a new car, and they were looking at like a Ford Focus, and I said, "We'll get the Ford Focus wagon." She's like, "Oh, I don't think I want a wagon." I'm like, "But it's the exact same car.
It's just better in every way.
It's better in every single way, function wise." And she's like, "Well, no, but it's a wagon." And
That's
so
where you
she
come
bought a
down to
sedan.
looks.
Right, but then she bought a sedan, and then she's had problems with shit getting into it. And I just go,
Yeah.
"You're an idiot."
Wait, so what do you
Don't-
mean
I
by
hope
that?
she-
Problems with things getting into them, Mr.
Well,
Sweary
wait.
Pants?
Well, you know, I don't know. Like, you can't, if it's a hatchback, you can fit more, like, taller things.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant like leaks. That's what I thought you meant by things.
Oh,
getting
no,
into it.
no. Yeah, no. It's the same. I just don't understand why station wagons, and even this new trend of having, like, the SUV that looks like just a raised up car that has this, like, slant back instead of like a. I just don't understand it. What is wrong with people?
So
You can't
I
even
think
see the car. You're inside of it.
I think completely aesthetically, not functionally, that those do look kind of cool.
I don't even think they look better, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would say with like the luxuriousness of sedans is like if you're talking like a Mercedes C-Class or something like that, then like yeah, like that's a beautiful car. But if you're buying like a Toyota Corolla, and I think Toyota kind of has seen this because most of their cars are, and especially like the new Honda Civics. I know I'm talking about a different car now, but like the same kind of level of economy is they kind of go towards the more hatchback thing because I think most people are seeing that they do make more sense.
Well, I know for me, I had a Nissan 240SX as like my second car. It had a hatchback. It was a two-door coupe, two-door fastback, hatchback, whatever. But the fact that I could drive with the hatch open meant that when my dad, when I can't remember if it was my dad or me, anyways, a hot water tank broke. I went to the store and I put a hot water tank in the back of my car. And I drove home with the hatch open, no problem, right? Because I could. And if I had a trunk, I couldn't do that. Like it would not be physically possible. Right? It's the same with when I had my Corvette. It was a hatchback Corvette. I took like a whole bunch of front bumpers from the race cars in the back of my car to the paint shop. And when I got there, they were like, "What are you doing with your Corvette?" And I'm like, "It's just a car, man. Like, whatever. I was driving around with the hatchback open. Whatever. Like, it's just a car, right? It's functional this way." Like, I took my Corvette camping. It was a great car for that because of the hatchback. You could store so much stuff in there. And, like, I've seen the coupe version of it, and the trunk is so small. And I think that's the same. Like, that's the sedan versus wagon argument.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you do that when you could have all this function and all this more room? I don't know.
I see the clear functional advantage of wagons. I do think some of them look stupid. I don't know what Dodge's wagon model is called, but I hate that car. I think it looks
the Magnum?
like garbage. Sure, that sounds like a name that Dodge would give a car. But I think most Dodge cars are ugly. But yeah, it's
what I don't like is when they don't seem to they go, "I'm going to make it station wagon, but I'm not going to give it the full functionality." right? Max out on one. Maybe that's my problem. As I go, you know what? Just make a box. Like the Ford Flex. It's just a box. Boom. You got a car. Let's go. Right? But nobody
Yeah.
buys them. So I guess that's the problem.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the boxy cars, I think there's something to be said for them. The Kia Souls kind of look cool. Honda Elements, I could see myself getting one.
I could definitely see
Cube.
it Honda Element. Not a
Yeah, the Cubes are cool. They have that weird like wraparound window, right? That's like it's only supported on one side.
The
Or
only
is that,
cool cube is the Hulk.
or that's the
From
Scion
Fast and the
XD,
Furious.
maybe.
Yeah, the Scion
What is the
is
deal with
also
Scion? Is Scion like we're just gonna make like kind of edgy, weird cars?
The only
Yes.
benefit I see to a sedan is that the subwoofers sound better.
Interesting. No,
the
that's good to
hatchback.
know because I'm genuinely asking like what why of the sedan over a
Why do they sound better? They don't. They sound better in a
Nah.
hatchback.
I personally think that subwoofers sound better enclosed in a sedan than they do in a hatchback.
But they have to go through the seats.
Yeah, I think because you get rid of that, like the muffle sound of
Oh.
the seat. I don't know. That's just personal preference, I guess. But in saying that, we have our Subaru is a wagon. I
Yes.
don't know. It's an SUV. And like the sound system of that is amazing, which I think is another great point to bring up is that
Oh,
in
that
in
is a good
in
point.
in cars these days, like the sound system that comes in the car these days is better. In most cars, is better than the sound systems people used to like spend thousands of dollars on putting in their
Yeah.
cars back in the day.
It's so true. And even just like that's another function or form. And
Yeah.
you think about sound systems as only being something for function, then you need to take a ride in my 1986 convertible and try and listen to anything at all with the top down. You can't hear anything because of how
Yeah.
poorly designed the sound system was, right? And
You
then new
probably find
convertibles.
like a
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say you probably find a bike, a cruiser bike with a radio on it that sounds better.
Oh, you could definitely. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I think I could pull out a Bluetooth speaker and it would sound better.
And actually, that's a good kind of point in general with like the usability of very old cars. Like you guys have seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino movie.
No,
No.
Oh, it's really good. I would highly recommend it. There's a lot of first person shots of like driving through the streets of LA in 1960s cars, and the sense you get from like the first person view of driving them, he's like, these are like so bumpy, so stiff, like everything is just hard edges. And I just think about like, oh, the driving experience of those must have been awful compared to cars with like modern suspensions. Like you could just feel everything's loud, you feel every bump, but they look great from the outside. That's their redeeming quality.
Well, there is something to say about feeling every bump, though. Like this is something where when you feel the feedback you get from your suspension is good. Like there's a point where you get like it feels like you're floating.
Yeah.
And that is great for your grandmother. You want to take your grandmother for a ride in a car, you want her to feel like you're floating. But so when driving this van, that's exactly what it felt like. I went to go past someone, right? And I'm used to passing people, no problem. Like, 2-lane highway going past someone. I felt unsafe because
Yeah.
I drove it as if I was driving my BMW and it just felt like,
Yeah, no, like my mom has a GMC Yukon XL, so
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
it's like a Suburban. It's massive, and it's super powerful. It's very high up, and it feels like you're floating when you're driving it. So it can be a little scary sometimes when you accelerate, and you're like, "Wow, I'm going really fast," and it just feels like I'm flying, and I could have hit something, and I wouldn't have known it.
Yep. And you try and change lanes and it's like, woo,
Yeah, but I would 100% choose that feeling over my current situation of like feeling every bump in my tin can of a car. Like I prefer that floating feeling.
So I think you need to experience something of a higher quality feedback than Hyundai.
Oh, I have. I mean, I've driven some nicer cars. I mean, I haven't driven like the nicest cars.
It's just I guess what I'm saying is there's an in between there, and I think that's for me the best part. Like
Yeah.
because I've driven a bunch of Suburbans as well, and I get what you're saying. You kind of feel like you're driving a very powerful shoebox that for some reason is able to go down the road at a ridiculous speed.
Yeah. I was my dad picked me up from school once in Montreal in that car. We were driving down 89, which is a beautiful highway in that goes through Vermont and New Hampshire. And we almost crashed. Like a car cut
Oh,
us
no.
off and he swerved. And I don't know if you've ever felt that feeling in a car before when you almost like flip, like you swerve on the highway and it like you kind of catch a little bit on the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a car that big, it was pretty terrifying.
And that's the floaty feeling that I don't like. Is
Yeah.
that it feels like that's happening way sooner than I want it to.
You feel like you're about to bounce out of a trampoline.
Right. And that's so I'm used to like I've always owned cars. And the minivan I sit up about 15 feet taller than the car. And it feels like I'm driving 30 feet taller. Like, I know I'm exaggerating maybe just a little bit. But when I compare it to like the sedans, it feels floaty and nice when you're going over bumps. But when you're trying to make any kind of maneuver, it doesn't feel tight. But that's the way it is, right? What do you think? So you maker Mackie, Adam, you've got a truck.
Yes.
Stop playing on Instagram and start listening to the show. Tell us about what a truck feels like and why you chose a truck over an SUV or a car and a trailer.
Okay, well, I actually have... So we have the SUV, I have the truck, and I have a little Hyundai Getz. So I have a big, broad... So the Hyundai Getz I bought to get me around while the truck's off the road. So I have a big, broad range of different types of cars. The trucks these days are a lot different, I think, to what they used to be. Between the truck and the SUV, there's not...
Which Subaru do you have?
Subaru Forester, 2014 or 2015 model. Okay, the Forester is a bit quicker. It's got like a better turbo and all that sort of stuff. But in saying that, the truck is more powerful, but it has a lot more to move. And honestly, between the two, they don't feel that different on the road. Other than the fact that the SUV has four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and the truck is only two-wheel drive. So something I never realized is that trucks, they're all two-wheel drive unless you put them in four-wheel drive, and you can't drive them in four-wheel drive at all times, except for a Mitsubishi Triton, I think, has four-wheel drive at all times. So you take...
Depends on... There's trucks
probably some other trucks that you can. I don't know anything about like GMC and all that sort of stuff, but you take like a Toyota Hilux, for instance, they're two-wheel drive. You can put them in four-wheel drive when you go off-road, but you can't leave them in four-wheel drive at high speeds. So
in the newer ones you can. But yes, definitely in the older ones it was totally like four-wheel drive was a low-speed thing, but now they have four-wheel drive high.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, so that was something that I never really knew about until I started getting into like the Ranger and all that sort of stuff. But power-wise, it doesn't feel that different. It overtakes fine. Like it will happily just blast past someone, same as the Subaru. But then I jump in my little Getz, and that thing is scary to overtake people in. Just like you were saying, like you put your foot down and you're not going anywhere. Like we're driving to work. I've got a couple of hills that I have to go up, and like I have to floor this thing just to get it up to the top of the hill. Like, and I'm already sitting on 110 k's an hour.
Yeah.
So.
But and maybe I'll use this to kind of round out the conversation. So I have the same phenomenon with my little Hyundai Accent, and it's annoying sometimes, but I would take the fuel economy and ability to park that car anywhere any day over a bigger, more powerful car. Those two things alone, the ability to park and the fuel economy, are like, that's pretty great.
Yeah, that is a really big point to make. Is there's only those two hills that really bother me, and honestly, I'm that used to it now. but the fuel economy is so different between the three. Like the Subaru is the one that uses the most, amazingly, between that and a heavy truck. But the truck is a 3-liter diesel. Diesels don't use as much fuel. Like you leave a diesel idling for a week, it's going to use less fuel than just starting your petrol car. Generally, like there's some variances there. Don't quote me on that, but yeah.
I was gonna say I won't actually tell you the truth, but that's cool. I do think that is a really great thing to put out there, is that there's a bit of function that people don't think about. Like a lot of people said, why aren't you just getting a full-size truck, Grant? That's how you can tow. You can tow anything you want to with a full-size truck. And I went, because I don't need a full-size truck. I don't want to park a full-size truck. It's really frustrating getting around. I see people like driving around like in a full-size truck going like getting almost stuck in places, driving over top of curbs. Like they don't care, obviously. But I just go like, I care. I don't want to be that person. I don't want a 500-foot like turning radius. I don't know.
Yeah, so someone, my wife's auntie's boyfriend, he's got a Ford F-350, I think it is, and that thing is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just looked at it and I'm like, that would just be a bitch to park. Like it's probably at least 2 times the size of my Ranger, and like in saying that, a Ranger it's not that much bigger than, like, I have no issue parking it and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, the Ranger's a pretty small truck. It's still pretty big, but
yeah, it's not. Like
we
a
have the
GMC.
race team. Yeah, the race team. We have a F550.
Yeah,
It is insane, and it's got a giant like pull-off cab. But you can't park it. You can't park it in a regular parking spot. You have to go find like you're the guy at the back of the parking spot taking 5 spots because you can't
pretty
park
much
it any other way.
You're pretty much driving an 18-wheeler without the trailer. Like it's insane.
Yeah,
I'll get a truck when I get my land to build my cabin in the woods. That'll be
perfect. Well, let's go on.
All right. On that, I would like to give a big thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon. It means so much. We really do appreciate it. And everyone who supports us over there gets access to the after show, which is a lot of fun, and the pre-show, which is usually fun, but not as good as the after show. Listen to the after show. It's better. And want to give a special thanks to Brent Jarvis from Clean Cut Working, who is our F-Clamp level supporter. And I'm currently working on his embossed leather keychain, which is another benefit to being a patron. So if you want to learn about that, you can go to patreon.com/clamp. And if you want to support the show in another way, we always appreciate if you share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. All right, Clampmendations.
Clampmendation this week is thinking about camping. I saw Laura Kampf has been one. She's been out camping, and she's been putting out a bunch of videos that have to do with her camping, like trailer. But I'm going to recommend or clampmendate the latest one, which is the Essential Overland Storage Case, which is just an interesting. Like, it's not about the thing I like about this video, and she had another video about making like a storage case for camping. Is it's not like I don't need to make that thing, but I like seeing her thought process in how she's putting stuff together, why she's putting stuff the way she is, right? How she's doing it to make sure that it doesn't like, because when you're thinking about like putting anything in your trailer, you don't want it to jumble around a lot. You want to try and keep it secure. Especially like this one, she's basically doing like all her fire starting and oil lanterns and all this like combustible stuff and lighters, and you don't want it all going around. So it's a fun little video if you want to get a little bit of inspiration on storing stuff.
Nice. All right. I want to shout out Allison Garcia from Allison Artisanals at Allison Artisanals on Instagram. She is a woodworker here in the Greater Toronto area, and we actually had her as a guest speaker a couple weeks ago at the Steam project. So I spent a lot of time talking to her and working with her. We did a epoxy art project with the kids. It was the first time we brought epoxy to camp, and it was just about as stressful as you might imagine. But at the end of the day, there were no major spills. Their pieces came out really cool. We basically got a bunch of silicone coaster molds, and then they customized that with whatever materials and wood pieces and dyes and other things that they wanted. But Allison is fantastic. She's like super positive. She's a very talented woodworker. She's a great story. She puts a lot of thought into her pieces. And she is very entertaining stories on Instagram. So yeah, check her out. I really enjoyed spending time with her, and I hope to collaborate with her more in the future. Allison Artisanals on Instagram.
Cool. I was just checking her thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. My Clampmendation this week is an Aussie comedian called Carl Barron. Carl. I don't know if I sounded weird when I said that. I feel like I did. Carl Barron is one of the only comedians I have literally cried to every time. My wife and I have seen him live probably 5 or 6 times now, and every time I leave in tears. He's pretty much one of the funniest comedians I've ever seen, and gives a great insight into Australian life. So, yeah. Pretty cool.
I hope you're leaving in tears of laughter.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you meant like tears of like emotionality at first.
No. Tears of laughter. Yeah, he's literally the first comedian I ever cried in laughter to, and yeah, he's very. It's funny because it's true kind of guy. Like everything he talks about is like very relatable of things that have happened in every Australian's life, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of Australian life, do you have a Australian word of the week for us?
I do, and I kind of have a twofer. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. So my word of the week this week is pluggers.
Okay. Pluggers. Like Pluggers.
That's correct.
Pluggers. Can you use it in a sentence?
We went out the other day and I took my pluggers. I'm trying to not be too descriptive.
I took my pluggers.
So it's a noun. It's a person, place, or thing.
It's a thing.
Where did you go out to?
Okay, I'll all right, another clue.
Nope.
We went to the beach and I took off my pluggers.
Oh, so it's like an article of clothing. So, okay, sunglasses. What would you take off at the beach? You would take out flip-flops or thongs, as you might call them.
It's like pants or a shirt.
I'm thinking sunglasses.
You just labeled every piece of clothing.
I'm saying
Yeah,
sunglasses.
that's what we're trying to think of. Like, if I label them all, one of them might sound right. I'm going to say I went to the beach and I took off my pluggers. You took them off at the beach?
Yep.
Oh, or is it earbuds? Because those plug your ears.
That's what I was just about to say.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to answer it in a different way because Morley was on the nose. We went to the beach and I took off my thongs.
There we go. That's it.
Yes.
I don't see what the
why are they
connection
pluggers?
is. Yeah, why pluggers?
Because the part that goes between your toes is a plug.
Oh, that makes
I don't know. That's just what they were called when I was growing up. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a good one. That's a good slang.
So the twofer was thongs because I didn't actually expect Morley to know that flip-flops were thongs.
That's what we call them. When
I live to impress.
Oh, okay. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you, TF Turning, for the theme music. And I'm going to go sing it in the after show. If you want to find us... Yes, Adam?
Did you listen to the end of not last week, the week before? Have you listened to yourself singing the song yet?
No, I haven't. I keep forgetting because we recorded at the end of the episode and then I go to bed. But I'll try to remember for next time. Send me a message. If you want to find us on social media, we are on Facebook, minimally, Instagram, more so, YouTube, more so, and all those links are in
Twitter?
the show notes. Yeah, we're kind of on Twitter. And
I think we're on Twitter more than we're on Facebook.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And Instagram these days.
Yeah, Instagram most of all. I'm going to go
When I
sing
remember.
the theme song in the after show. Goodbye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
All I'm telling you is I reset my trip odometer every time I fill up my gas tank. It's between 400 and 450 kilometers. It costs me about $35 to $40 to fill my tank. That's the math.
How
That's
many
the
liters
distance.
do you have in your tank? It's a 40-liter tank.
It doesn't matter. That all that matters is the amount of money and
It
the amount of
does.
distance. And that's how much that's the numbers I need to calculate to see how much the total gas
So-
will cost for the trip.
So if 1 week fuel costs $1 per liter and the next week it costs $1.50 per liter, it doesn't matter how much you actually put in the car.
The price of gas doesn't vary that much. So
It does here.
this
It does
I
here.
drive this. I'm telling you, I drive this car consistently. Right, 450 kilometers costs $40. So, and I have those two numbers, and I have the total distance. Those are all the variables you need to calculate how much the gas should cost for the trip.